Hello everyone, this is Dr. Rachita Misra speaking to you on your software engineering course. Today we will be discussing on testing strategies, software testing strategies. The topics that we will cover will be some of the generic characteristics that will affect our testing strategy, the difference between verification and validation, considering conventional architecture is followed, what kind of strategy is to be used for testing, and the same strategy, what should be used for the OO architecture. Then when do we say that the test is complete? What can we have a criteria? And certain issues for the test strategy. So coming to the first point on the topic, a strategic approach to software testing. That means under this strategic approach, we will look into some of the general characteristics of the strategic approach. To perform effective testing, a software team should conduct effective formal technical reviews. Because in that case, a large number of errors will be eliminated before testing. So to reduce the number of testing defects, or rather the depth of testing, the effort spent on the testing, we need to do the formal technical review and reduce it before it comes to the testing. We should make the errors much less. Testing begins at a component level. That means at a lower level of the architecture and works bottom up fashion to the integration and the entire computer based system. So we start at a lower level and then we slowly go up from the unit test, the component level unit test, to the integration of different components, and then finally to the complete system. And different testing techniques are appropriate at these different points of time. So if you consider this as levels of testing, at each level of testing, component level testing, integration level testing, and system level testing, we will have different testing techniques and that are appropriate to that particular level. The testing technique will not be same at all times. Testing is conducted initially by the developer. That is another general characteristic. Always the initial test, that is the component level testing, will be done by the developer, not by the QA people. And but later on, as we continue to go over the system and go to the entire computer based system level testing, that final validations, then we can have an independent test group inside the development project or maybe outside who will be doing the testing. So in our testing strategy, we have to include this kind of test plan in our testing strategy. And the other thing is, testing and debugging are different activities. This is trying to find the error, and this is trying to find the debugging is trying to find the cause of the error. Testing is used to find the error, identify the error, or identify an anomaly or a defect in the software product or the work product. Whereas debugging is used to open the source code and find where the bug is or where the problem is. So these two are different activities, but they happen together. Whenever you have a testing, defects will come and therefore debugging has to be done. So in any testing strategy, we should include this debugging activity as part of the testing. So these are some of the general general characteristics. Whatever is the strategic approach, we need to include these things into our strategic approach because they are general characteristics. Then let us take a look into what is verification and what is validation. So this testing is only one element of a broader topic. So when we say verification and validation, that is a much broader topic of finding out all kinds of errors and removing them. That is what is verification and validation. And testing is only one element within it. So verification refers to the set of activities that ensure that software correctly implements a specific function. So if the specific function definition is given, that means a function's specification is given or its design is described, then verification tries to see that the work product is implemented as per the specification. That is what is meaning of the verification. So it is trying to verify what we have modeled or what we have designed is correct as per the previous step, whatever we have the specification. Whereas in the validation, we refer to a set of activities that check if the software was built, which whatever software we have built, is it traceable to the customer requirement. Is the software built as per the customer requirement? Can we say that this particular feature of the software or this particular behavior of the software is because customer requirement is mentioned it in that way? So validation is to verify that all the customer requirements are correctly taken, and verification is to verify that the whatever we have done is as per a specification that has been given to us. In other words, we can say verification makes sure we are building the product in the right way. That means we have implemented as per the specification. So we have done it as per the right way because the right way was written in the specification. And the validation ensures that we are building the right product. That means whatever the customer needed, whatever is written in the requirement, we are doing that. We are not doing something else. So the objective in these two kind of activities are totally different. As you can see, one is giving focus to the specification and whether it is based on the verified specification. So it is talking of the right way. The other is saying whether your product itself is right because does it follow the customer requirements. So these definitions of V&V include many of the activities that are similar to the software quality assurance. When we discuss the software quality assurance also, we discuss many activities. So all of those are now part of the bigger topic or bigger activity which is under the umbrella of verification and validation. And also the V&V encompasses a wide variety of SQA activities. That is what we were talking in the last slide. Now you can see formal technical review, quality configuration audit, performance, checking whether the performance is correct or not, determining some performance metrics and seeing their values, simulating it, doing the feasibility, documentation to check the documentation review, database review, whether the database is designed as per the entity relation or not. Then algorithm analysis, that means we are going to the procedures or the program components and trying to see whether the transformations or the processing logic is correctly written in the form of the algorithms. Then development testing, that is to put a experiment and do the development testing, qualification testing, and installation testing. So there are so many different types of SQA activities we do, and most of the activities are part of the V&V. They are not totally, but some of it is maybe different, but definitely all the SQA activities are a part of the V&V. So V&V is actually the superset and the SQA activities are a subset. Testing is a final opportunity to remove errors based on which the software quality can be assessed. So we have to take it as a final opportunity, the last chance we get to see that whatever we will, because after the testing we will be installing the system to the users area in their environment and we will be delivering it to them for their use. So we will not get another opportunity for the development project environment. Development team will not get another opportunity to validate it or verify it. So this is our last opportunity. So we should take validation as like that. So testing is basically the validation. Testing is a final opportunity to remove errors based on which the software quality can be assessed so that the remaining errors will be reduced. So that is our main purpose. The final software quality that is obtained during testing is also a measure on application methods, process model, tools, formal technical review, etc., which together contribute to the software quality. So all through the development cycle, we try to do this application methods, process models, tools, formal. So the software is a output of using all these measures. So it has inherent properties of these things. So therefore, when we finally check the software quality, it has the contribution of all these things. So that is why we say the final software quality that is obtained during testing is also a measure on the application methods, whether the application methods were appropriate or not, whether the process model was appropriate, whether the tools used were giving the right effectiveness, productivity, and the quality, formal technical reviews, how effective they were. So all these tasks that we have done and all the care we have taken, the result of it is found out as the final software quality, which is obtained during the testing, because testing is the last chance to check the quality. So what is the testing strategy if you adopt a conventional software architecture? When we mean a conventional software architecture, we basically mean the decomposition or into kind of a call and return type of modules. So you have the working modules, the logical, the functional modules at the bottom of the tree, and then as you go up, you have the at the root of main control of the software, and then either the control is divided or the functionality is divided in the middle level. So that is the conventional architecture, which we normally call as the call and return architecture that we have studied in the architecture lesson. So now what we do, we are trying to create a testing strategy for it, because this is a common kind of thing, and most of the architectures are derived from it. So when we have a different architecture, we can modify our testing strategy. So when we have a conventional architecture, what is the testing strategy we will apply? So the first and foremost is that each component initial test should focus on each component individually, ensuring that it functions properly as a single unit. So each unit of work product or each unit of program or a component has to work independently correctly. That is the focus of the first test. And this is normally termed as the unit testing, and it uses a white box testing technique. So later in some other class, we will go into the detail of what is white box. But for the current time, you can consider that when we do white box, that means we are opening the component and we are going into the code, into the structure. It is also called as structural testing. So we are actually looking into the code and looking at the examining the structure of the code when we are doing the unit testing. And based on that, we are doing the new test case preparation that we will deal with a different class. So unit testing cases use white box testing techniques, exercising specific paths in a module's control structure. So that is why it is called as structure testing also. So that is the initial test. The initial test focus should be on its components and the structure in which the component is written, and we have to do a white box testing technique for it. We have to use a white box testing technique for it and accordingly design the test cases. And then comes the integration testing. That means we have to integrate these already unit tested component into a particular functional path. So integration testing addresses the issues associated with the dual problems of verification and program construction. So because it is trying to see the communication or the collaboration of the programs, so it is also verifying the particular component, particular path, how the collaboration has happened, and it is also looking at the program construction, whether the interfaces have been correctly coded, correctly implemented, or correctly designed and correctly implemented, so that there is no defect coming out of when we integrate and test it. This uses a black box testing because we have to go to the path, we have to verify the behavior of the set of components when they are integrated together. So whenever behavioral test is coming, we will use a black box testing case. And the test case will be designed according to the black box strategy. So here we use the white box strategy, here we use the black box strategy. And next we will do the validation testing that will provide the final assurance that software meets all functional, behavioral, and performance requirements. So this will be validated. The software as a whole will be validated against the requirements for these three criteria: functional, behavioral, and performance. This one also uses the black box testing techniques because we are doing a overall functionality, overall behavior, and overall performance. And the final one will be validation software must be combined with other system elements. So when we validate, we also have to do a system testing, what is known as a system testing, because we will integrate it with any other entity that we have, like database, people, hardware. So this will be in a more real life situation, how it will be. Up to here is it's a development environment, so here it is a more real life situation. So in the real life situation, we will do the system testing, and we will verify the overall system function as well as its performance. So system testing will verify all the elements that mesh properly, that they work properly when we are going to a almost real kind of environment that the user uses, and we will check the functionality as well as the performance. So that is the strategy. So what we have seen from a procedural point of view, what we find that there are 4 steps, and there is a series of tests consisting of 4 testing steps, and they are used sequentially, one after the other. We cannot do it parallel. It has to be performed in a sequential manner, and each one is having a different focus. The unit test focus on the component code, and the integration test on the design, and the validation on the system test on the requirements. So this is a picture which is depicting it. This is kind of an architecture. You have the top level module, and you have the lower level modules. So but the testing is going in another direction. It first tries to test these units, whether they are functionally correct. Then it tries to, so the code part is tested, and to some extent the structure of the code is tested. Then we go to the integration, so the path is tested. So the design, how the design has defined the collaboration and the other message passing and all those things are tested. So that is part of the design. So the design gets validated, and then we go to the highest order, which is the validation test or the system test, where we are the requirements, whether the requirements are properly satisfied or not, that gets tested. So while in the architecture and the development, we came from the higher level to the lower level. This had lower abstraction, and this is the higher abstraction and less detail, and slowly the details were created, were broken down into more details, and they were expanded, and it came down to a very lower level. But when we go to the testing, we first do the lower level, then the middle level, and then the higher level. So we go in a different direction. So just to remind you, if you remember your process model class, we had said there is a V model, which stands for validation and verification and validation. So there also you had seen that one part of the V is coming down and the other part of the V is going up. So the direction in which we develop, we start with the high level abstraction to low level abstraction, whereas the way we go to the testing, we go from the lowest level where more detail is available to the highest level. So that is what we are continuing. Software process and strategy for software testing may also be viewed as a spiral model. So here we have seen it as a pyramid, but we can also view it as a spiral model, like a spiral, like the activity described in a spiral model. So unit testing will be at the heart of it, at the vortex, at the center of the spiral, and concentrate on each unit component of the software. Testing progresses by moving outward along the spiral. So we will move outward along the spiral and go to the integration testing. Focus will be on the design and the construction. And the next turn, when we go in the spiral, we will encounter validation testing, where requirements will be established as part of the software will be checked against the software. So whether the software and the validation and the requirement are actually matching with each other. And finally, we will arrive at the system testing, where the whole software along with the other system elements will be tested. So those were the two different views to our testing strategy. Now, from the conventional architecture, we are moving to the OO architecture. The overall strategy for the OO architecture will remain almost the same as the conventional architecture, but we will have to do the modification because we are using the OO paradigm. So we will, with modification in the approach to the 4 levels of testing. So all the 4 levels of testing will remain, and the focus will also remain almost the same way. But because now we are using OO architecture, so we will make necessary modification. The testing, unit testing, or the initial stage of the testing will start with we call it testing in the small. We don't say it is testing, but we now call it as testing in the small and move in the direction to the testing in the large. In the testing, unit testing, earlier we tested the modules because we had to, because those were the lowermost units in our architecture. But now in the object oriented, we have the classes, and along with the classes, we have its attributes, we have its operations, the communicational messages between the classes, their relations, and their collaborations. So when we do the unit test, we have to cater for all these things because they cannot be separated. Unlike the architecture where integration, the messaging and the collaboration was part of the integration, here it is part of the unit test. So the integration is more or less vanishing from here. In place of the integration testing, what we will put a series of regression tests. Why we will put the series of regression tests? Because when a set of classes are done, another set of classes are being developed. So more and more classes are added. Then what will happen is something may go wrong when we integrate it with other classes and other methods. Then something may go wrong in the what we have already tested. So for that reason, we will do a regression testing. So we will all the parts that we had done in the unit, we will combine it and we will run it again. Each time we add some new units of functionality along with its class and its components. So what is the idea of behind regression? There is no error introduced or there is no side effect. So whatever is the communication between the class and components remain intact. It works correctly. So the integration test now becomes a regression test. Finally, the system as a whole is tested to check for its overall function as per the requirement. So the system test remains as it is. So the validation and the system test is done together. And in place of the integration test, we are doing a regression test. And the unit test is actually part of the unit test as well as some part of the integration test, because we have to test a class along with its attributes, operations, communication, and collaboration. We cannot leave it separately. Now let us see, can we tell something about when we will complete testing, how much testing we should do to produce a error-free product. Can we say, can we make a criteria, or can we say that so much of testing has been done, so much effort will be spent on the testing? Can we do that? The answer is no. There is no definitive way to know that the testing is complete. In fact, it will come as a surprise to most of you, because every engineer thinks that testing is a very minor activity, and after all, if the coder is good, he will write good programs. So why test? Why waste time? But it is just the other way. Testing takes a lot of effort because each time a programmer or an engineer writes a program, it is very likely that he will inject some error. And that error will get magnified. We have seen in the previous lessons how the errors get magnified as the work product moves from one task to the other task. So the testing becomes, there is a lot of load on the testing. There are so many errors which have got injected during the development process. And not only that, we have to see that the functionality is as per what the customer wanted, because the design itself may be wrong. Our requirement understanding might have been wrong. So many things can go wrong in the development process. So testing is a very important part. and is a very time consuming part, because we do not know how many errors. If we knew how many errors, then we can say, okay, when these many errors are done, then we have got when the testing is complete. But because we do not know, it is a very uncertain task. Therefore, we cannot say that testing is ever complete. In fact, testing is never complete, and always there is a remaining residual errors always stay, which are not detected, which are very difficult to detect. The software in fact gets tested in use. So each time we have released, after the release, each time the customer executes it to perform his own work, his or her own work, it is tested, because some data is going in and some processing is happening, and it is tested, and there is always a possibility that some error will get detected. It will surface out at that time on a particular situation of data input, and the status of the system at that particular point of time will suddenly trigger a error, and it will surface out, and it will be reported as a defect by the customer. So we cannot ever say that testing is complete. What we can say is our testing phase is in our project is complete. That is all we can say. But we cannot say that testing per se is complete for the software product. So one can plan for the testing activities as per the, please read it as THE, as a spelling mistake here, typing mistake here. So one can plan for the testing activities as per the money or the budget availability. So we have constraints in the project. So we have fixed time, fixed budget, and fixed time schedule. So both time schedule and the budget is fixed for us. So within that, we have to allocate a percentage of the total project effort to the testing based on past project data. So only that much we can say, that we have planned to spend so much of time, and within that time, and be using that much of effort, that much of cost, whatever we can test, that much will be complete. So whatever we have planned for, that much will be complete. But we cannot say. So the test planning is very important. How you do a good test planning is very important, to see that the testing covers a lot of the errors. For more rigorous criteria, if you want a more rigorous criteria for determining sufficiency of the testing, when sufficient testing has been conducted or not, one has to use some techniques for predicting the number of errors. So there are some techniques, they are not very foolproof, but there are some techniques available. So you have to go to one of those techniques and try to predict number of errors that you will get. And then as and when you test, you will try to see how much error has been removed. So if you try to approach almost the predicted error, you can say this was my predicted error, and I have removed, say suppose N1 is my predicted error, and N2 is my errors that I have recovered and fixed. So if N2 approaches N1 almost very near to it, then we can say that we have reached a criteria to stop our testing. Otherwise, if you want to use statistical criteria, then we cannot be absolutely predicted the software will never fail. So, but relative to a theoretical experimental validation, by making a statistical experimentation and validating it, we can perform sufficient testing to say that with a particular confidence, or say 95% confidence level, we can say that the programs will not fail. Or in other words, we can say that the system is now stable, and it will not, most likely 95% time, it will not fail. So that is all we can say about the criteria of completion of testing. So certain, either by using prediction, or by using statistics, or by using the constraints that is available with us, we have to plan our testing very well, so that we are able to test as much as possible, as many paths as possible, uncover as many errors as possible, to get a very high quality and very stable, reliable software. Now comes to some of the issues in the testing. So we have seen what is the strategy we apply. We have seen that it is never complete. We are never satisfied. So we have to use some statistical or some other means. Now we come to is there some issues in the testing and can we overcome them? Even if we have planned a very good thing, many things may go wrong. So some researchers have worked on it, and Gibbs is one of person who has given some general level issues which needs to be addressed before you go for the testing. Whatever strategy you use, your testing strategy will fail if these kind of issues remain and they are not addressed, they are not removed. So the first one is specify product requirements in a quantifiable manner much before the testing starts. So we have to, whenever we try to do the specification of the requirements, we need to quantify it. That means we need to create some numbers, codification of the numbers. And then we need to also say which is a major and which is a minor requirement, prioritization. So all these things will provide a quantification to the requirements. It includes product quality. So also we will have to say, having done the requirements, we have to say that the software, what is the quantifiable quality characteristics we are looking for it. Not only that the requirements have to be properly numbered and indexed, also the requirements, what is the implied requirements for it regarding the quality characteristics, such as what is the maintainability we are looking for, whether there will be, if there is a lot of changes we are expecting, then maintainability should be high. If it is usability, means how user friendly you want. If the end users are novices, then it has to be very user friendly. But if they are intelligent people who are used to computers, then you don't need to be making it very usability. You don't need to spend so much time on the user interface. Then similarly portability, and there are many other characteristics that we have seen in our metrics class. So all those things needs to be explicitly informed when you are doing the requirements. So not only functional requirements but also non-functional requirements. And state testing objectives explicitly. So what is, how much you want to do, what should be your MTTF level at the end of the testing, what should be the defect density that you can tolerate, what should be the testing coverage, are you going to do the 100% testing coverage or 90%, 80% like that, what is the testing hours you can spend on the regression. So those kind of objectives should be explicitly sorted out, that kind of issues. Then understand the use of users of the software and develop their profile. So when we do this, then we have to determine, we have to be very clear about the use cases, because use cases describe the profile of each type of user. So that's why we said user category. So each type of user, each category of user, how they are interacting with the system is described by the use case. So this use case interaction scenarios will affect the rigor of testing. If it is how big are these, how complex are these, how much detail is there, so how many use cases you will need per test case, that all will define your strategy for the testing. So that is why it is important to understand. So you need to have very good use cases. If you don't have this, then you have a problem. So this is an issue. Develop a testing plan that emphasizes rapid cycle testing. Nowadays we are going for the rapid development, so increments and all, and DevOps. So there has to be a practice or a training, so that project staff will learn how to do rapid testing. They have to get used to it. They have to get used to rapid testing, mostly for each increment, so that the increment can go very early. The cost of the development will be reduced. Then we have to build a robust software that is designed to test itself. So can we do that? Because if we can do it, then our speed itself will get solved. So there is some research going on regarding the anti-bugging software that is capable of diagnosing certain classes of error, not all errors, but some amount of errors it can diagnose. So in fact, nowadays a lot of productivity tools are coming up which will test the syntax, which will give templates of certain code so that the business code can be built in. So those are the characteristics of building the robust software. So can we resolve that issue by either using some procedure or some tools. So that is why we said use of automated tools. use effective formal technical review. So that FTR process has to be there prior to the testing. So the test strategy should be in such a way that FTR is a must. Because if you have a FTR, your the error that has passed through and got amplified or generated during each phase, it becomes less because FTR filters out some. So when you come to the testing, you don't have all the 100% errors, but you have some which have been removed. So the load on the testing is reduced. So you can have less number of testing, less number of test cycles than you would have if you didn't have a FTR. To remove all those errors that were already removed in the FTR, you need to do a more testing, and always testing is more costly than a review. So that is why this is an issue, because we may forget to do FTR or we may eliminate FTR. In that case, testing is a problem. Conduct FTR to evaluate the test strategy and the test cases. So based on the removal of errors, whatever errors we have already removed, once we have conducted it, we have to see how many errors we have removed, what is the type of errors we have removed. Based on that, we will prepare we will get an idea that what is removed and what is remaining. So accordingly, we will make the test cases. So we will re-review our test strategy based on the what are the errors that have been uncovered during the FTR. Then we will develop a continuous improvement in testing approach and testing process. So if we don't have this, then testing becomes very monotonous and it doesn't improve. And now because the rapid testing is a focus, so people will have difficulty and lot of defects, lot of low quality software will go into production. So what is the best way to do? We will have continuous improvement. So in the continuous improvement in the approach and also in the process. So your testing strategy should include a improvement plan. And to do that improvement plan, your testing strategy should include a metrics computation, data collection and metrics computation. Otherwise, unless you quantify your test processes and the effectiveness of your test, you cannot do process improvement. So this metric should be used as part of the statistical SQA to improve the process and also reduce the errors. So what we have discussed certain generic or common kind of issues that create an impact to the test strategy, that have a bearing on the test strategy. And therefore, before we create the test strategy, we should look into these issues, try to resolve as much as possible these issues, these 8 issues that we discussed, so that our strategic, whatever is the testing strategy we develop, will be very effective. So now we come to the some last slide. We will summarize what we have discussed over the last 30-40 minutes. We started with taking an overview of the generic characteristics of a test strategy, what it should contain. We then differentiated between verification and validation. We said that we have 2 types of activities. They complement each other. This is done during the development and this is done during the testing. So testing is only a part of a bigger process which is called verification and validation, which is a bigger QA activity to remove defects and create a failure-free software, a reliable software. We looked into the testing strategy used for applications built with conventional architecture, and we discussed the 4 levels of testing that is used in this particular strategy. And we discussed that for the O architecture, object-oriented architecture, the same strategy can be used but with some modification, because now we have the object-oriented paradigm of a class, its attribute, operation and collaboration all together. So that paradigm, because of this paradigm shift from the conventional to the object-oriented, we can use the similar strategy but not the same strategy. We have to change it, we have to modify it. We discussed that there is no test completion, and however, a criteria to stop testing will depend on several parameters or the constraints of the software project. This is the common one. Normally people use this. However, There are also some statistical experimental methods to try to predict the number of errors, and based on that we can take a decision on when to stop the testing. Finally, we looked into few issues that are always there which will affect the testing strategy. So those needs to be addressed as it affects our testing strategy. Even if you have employed a good testing strategy, if such issues remain, then we will not be able to satisfy a good testing process can be followed. So we have seen the strategic points, the overall strategy of the testing, and in the subsequent lessons we will go into details, and we will look into those testing practices of unit integration, validation, and system level testings. We will also look into some other aspects of the metrics and measurements. So thank you all for giving me a patient hearing.